So we are starting off, actually, I forgot my books. Starting off on Wednesday, as Cameron's already talked about a bit, the Lent season. So for those of you who are familiar with it, Lent is the 40 days before Easter, when traditionally the church has spent some very dedicated time trying to get closer to Christ, and to use this as one of those traditions that if we give meaning to it, it can actually be very powerful. So I've encouraged y'all to do a couple things. One is to go buy your own devotional book. On Amazon, I did this week. I put in 40-day devotional, and about 20 of them came up. And it was really simple. This cost 99 cents with $8 shipping. You'll know how that works, right? Unless you have Prime, right, exactly. But anyway, I would just encourage you, go get your own devotional this week. There's women's stuff, there's family stuff, there's marriage devotionals. There are all kinds of specific ones for various places in life. There are for youth and children. Go on and do this. If you ever don't have the funds to do this, that's fine. The church will be happy to buy your book. This one is 40 Days with Wesley by Reuben Job, and I don't know if it's any good or not. So, at the end of this, maybe we'll talk about what of the ones that y'all did that you found were great. If you're looking for a devotional book and you just have no idea, I will tell you, this one for me, I've gone through a lot of them over the years. It's just Time with God, the New Testament for busy people. It allows you to read through the whole New Testament in a year. I haven't found anything even close to this one yet. I keep trying them. But anyway, there's something about actually reading the Bible. Imagine that. That's powerful, and reading the New Testament. So if you don't have one of these, I would encourage you to get one, or get something that has you read through the New Testament in a year. With all the devotional books, none of them are going to be a bad thing, but I always just want to remind all of us, you do need to read some scripture every day. And with some of the devotionals, it gives their personal thoughts, and there's not a single scripture at all. So that's the only thing I would encourage you to do, to just be sure that you're actually opening the Bible. In your sermon notes, per usual, you will find chapters on the top. If you just want to do that, that'd be fine too. But here's the point, that you'll make a dedicated effort from the beginning of Lent, which is Wednesday morning, and we'll have the Ash Wednesday service at 6 o'clock. If you can't come, watch it online. For those of you online, many of you have talked to me about it's starting to work well. We still have a few little bugs to work out, but it's getting real close. I also would encourage you, if you can have a few neighbors or friends that would come to your house to watch the service. If you're fasting, you can serve them some nuts and apples, and it'll be awesome. But it would be better to have a nice meal and start your fast on Thursday and be a witness for Christ, just to be clear. So think about that. Think about there's somebody you can invite and watch the service online. It's going to be a good service. The whole music team's going to be here, so that's going to be at 6 o'clock this Wednesday, and we certainly will be live streaming as well. The Daniel fast that Cameron is talking about, if you haven't studied that, I would encourage you to. We do not recommend just like doing everything, giving up everything but water. No. The idea is that you'll spend 3 to 10 days at the beginning of Lent, basically you can have all the uncooked fruits and uncooked vegetables you want. Just knock yourself out. And then certain types of nuts, but nothing else. Nothing else. Some people ask about juice. Yeah, of course, as long as it's not sugar added, that kind of stuff. The idea is that you're going to fast, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fast from Wednesday morning through Sunday morning, and then Sunday morning I'm going to eat a nice breakfast, and then I'll just eat per usual until the week before Easter, and then starting the Monday of Holy Week, I'm going to fast that 7 days up until Easter Sunday, and I hope that you'll join me in that. The other thing that we're going to hit pretty hard here with the message is that I want to encourage you to give up something for the 40 days. Now, it is not your favorite thing, although it can be. What I want us to think about today, and this is where we're going to start and this is where we're going to end. I think in our culture, in our country, we have so little awareness of sin anymore, much less temptation. I think we've become such a normalized society where it's like whatever the lowest common denominator is in terms of morals, well, that's what's right. Anything goes. And we call it judging people when we actually have morals. That's not judging, by the way. That's called discernment. Judging is when you stick your finger in people's face and tell them how horrible a person they are because they're not following your standards. Having standards is not judging anybody. And so one of the things that I want us to think about in the message today, do you have an awareness of when you have been tempted to sin? In the last 7 days, since last we met, for those of you who were here last Sunday, have you even been aware of when you were tempted to sin? We left last week, we talked about covetousness and how important it is to be content in a world that embraces covetousness. What is covetousness? Well, as we looked in the sermons online, you can go back and watch it. Covetousness is this idea that you have a desire for something or someone you should not have. You have a desire for something or someone you shouldn't have. And one of the 10 commandments, the big ones, thou shalt not covet. In the modern English translations, it says, thou shalt not desire your neighbor's wife or their house. Have you coveted any this week? Do we even have an awareness of this? So anyway, I just really want us to think about, okay, if we're going to give up something for Lent, how about give up something that you're tempted to do that's wrong? How about give up something that you're actually doing that's wrong? Let's think that through for the next few days. Give that up. Fast at the beginning of Lent, at the end of Lent. You're not going to starve yourself. Eat all the fruits, nuts, vegetables you want. You'll still be hungry, promise you. Have a devotional every day. If you have to miss church, if you get the coronavirus, we'll pray for you. Don't come, you know. Someone's like, I had the flu last week. I decided to stay home. I was like, thank you. It's okay, you know. Stay home, but watch worship. Engage all the spiritual practices for 40 days. And here's what I want you to do also. You're like, it's too much stuff to remember. I know. Have yourself a little gauge. How at peace are you at the beginning of Lent? How are your relationships doing at the beginning of Lent? How's the joy and the hope and just the warmth and light that you're feeling at the beginning? Follow Jesus for 40 days. And tell me how much better you feel on Easter Sunday. Here's this works. What is this? Following Jesus works. Many of you heard me say it. I just know that I know. Ultimately, I do believe in the theology. I've devoted my whole life to studying the Bible. I've gotten a lot of schooling, all that kind of stuff. I spent a lot of money. But it's not about that. What really drives me to keep doing this week after week after week is that in my own life, you follow Jesus, it works. And so many of you, y'all's testimony to me, it is so encouraging. You weren't following Jesus. You started coming, you started doing this stuff, and your life is better now. Not because of what I said, because of what Jesus says, and because who Jesus is. So I just want to encourage you. Think about where you've strayed. Have some self-awareness. Have some humility. Be honest. Where have you strayed? Pick the thing, the temptation that has pulled you furthest away from the Lord, and for 40 days, stop it. Just stop it. Cold turkey. All right, we're going to get into that some more. Quick video, and then we'll work through some of this with the sermon notes, and then I hope you will read these actually before Wednesday, so this will help you inform some of what you're going to do if you decide to do this Lent journey with me. So quick video, and then we'll get started. because I did want us to see, well, maybe we'll just see this. There you go. Hold that just a second. We start and we end with this. Y'all do know people don't believe this, right? I mean, we talk about this almost cliche, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And our world does not believe this anymore. Our culture doesn't believe this more. The people in Hazlitt don't believe this anymore. The people where you work, 80% of them don't believe this anymore. The TV shows you watch don't believe this anymore. And so one of the struggles that hopefully all of us are seeing is that if the world we live in doesn't believe that Jesus speaks truth, okay, then what's the truth our world is living by? Should we care? And I would suggest to you, absolutely we should care, because every single day, and it is crazy, even in my own ministry, and I'm not that old, by the way, although the youth would say otherwise, but whatever. In my own lifetime, I have seen a cultural shift to where 30 years ago, there was at least a little bit of an assumption that there was something valuable in what Jesus had to say. And today, there's no question. The people who believe this are the ones who are actually ostracized and marginalized. It is not normal. As a matter of fact, it's offensive to a lot of people to talk about Jesus anymore. Is that fair? So what I want to ask is, if the world we live in and are exposed to every day, if we don't live and work with and have neighbors who believe that Jesus is the truth, then what is the truth that they're living by? And does that affect us? And the answer is absolutely. Thank you, Melissa. I got a quote here from a very famous scholar. I wrote it, by the way. Anyway, I'm famous to myself. Every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, hey. Anyway, I put it like this. Virtues, and you're welcome to disagree. This isn't Bible. This is Thomas' reason working. But I feel like our culture has no awareness of sin, much less temptation anymore. We don't see like a plumb line, a threshold for right and wrong. It's kind of like, well, if it's right for you, it's right for you. And who am I to judge you? And it's all about inclusiveness. Notice, as long as we're including people who don't have standards. It's really not about, though that's not fair. There's a lot of racial problems and prejudice. I need to be clear about that. But inclusiveness now has come to mean including people who have no standards. Including people who say, I'm right because I'm me, and this is what I think. Now, the problem with that, in my opinion, goes something like this, that as our culture has no awareness of sin, much less temptation, then this idea of virtues and high moral standards, they begin to vanish. I mean, there's no such thing as virtues and high moral standards when, note, from parenting to marriage to friends, in all of life, when we become permissive to the point of not only accepting, but enabling the spoiled and the selfish and the worst of human behavior as being normal and just the way people are. Now, I'm not talking about murder and all that kind of stuff. We still certainly think those are the worst of human behavior. But I'm talking about, like, when I literally I'll just give a quick story to you. But Monday, Scott, my son, 11-year-old, he was having problems with his throat, so we've been thinking about going to the doctor. Well, we actually go to the doctor twice on Monday, and they say, well, we're not going to see anyone under 18 years old. After we had driven there, made the appointments. So I'm already a little frustrated. Awareness of temptation to sin, none, right? So I'm just getting mad. Tuesday morning, And Scott was out of school, so we have to take him out of school. We drive all the way to South Lake to see another doctor. I've been waiting in traffic for over an hour. God bless any of you who drive through that. No wonder we don't believe in Jesus. Traffic is an absolute anti-Jesus. Anyway, so we sit in traffic for an hour and 15 minutes. We finally get there. We're the first people, and I go in and I fill out I go in, I give her my insurance, and she hands me the clipboard. Y'all know what this is like. Fill this out. I'm like, gotcha. For whatever reason, even more no self-awareness. I had to use the bathroom the whole way. I had like 8 cups of coffee, right? And so I'm just sitting there dancing, trying to fill this thing out because I want to get Scott in quickly. So I fill the thing out. In the meantime, this gentleman steps up to the window, and he starts talking with the lady. So I fill it out, and I got to go to the bathroom. And I walk beside the guy, and I just hand her my sheet, and I start to turn around to go to the bathroom. And Scott, I feel sorry. He was with this guy. He literally turns around. He looks me dead in the face, and he almost starts cussing me out. Now, he starts using Jesus Christ's name, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't Jesus who he was talking about. I actually wanted to ask him, you do know Jesus has nothing to do with what you're saying to me, but with his wife and child right behind him, and literally their countenance just darkened. And Scott's looking at me like, you going to fight him? You know, what you gonna do? But I handed it, and he goes on and on about, I can wait my turn, and what's my problem, and JC this, JC, he literally, and I'm just like, wow. So I said, man, I did say, you got a problem, but I'm done here. I just need to get this, and I went into the bathroom. And I flushed him down the toilet too, you know? That's his whole face the whole time I'm thinking, anyway. TMI, whatever. I was mad. So I took a deep breath, me and Scott, and I've never gotten in the doctor's office that fast, by the way. As soon as we sat down, they had me in the back. And I was like, But anyway, so we come out, and the lady, the same lady's there, and I just looked at her, I said, I apologize for that whole thing. And she's like, wasn't that crazy? I was like, yeah. I said, I haven't experienced that a whole lot in my life. She's like, what do you do? I said, well, I'm a pastor. She goes, oh, you know. And I said, I just want to hand you the sheet of paper. She said, I know. It's like, and then she made this point. Y'all listening? She goes, isn't it crazy how he feels like he is right? She's like, I see it all the time. People act like that, and they absolutely feel validated that how he treated you, and he was basically yelling at her too. That he was in the right, even though his wife is embarrassed, and he's red in the face. But that's, nothing in that whole episode in his mind triggered anything that says maybe me yelling at this person and using the Lord's name in vain and is a problem. This guy handing a sheet of paper around me, he's the problem. And who am I? And even she said, well, how, who's to say? I mean, if he's sincere, I'm like, and I told her, I said, you and I both know it's his attitude. It's just wrong. She goes, yeah. So what do you think? How much of the attitudes of the average American citizen, the behavior of the average person driving on the road or waiting in a line they don't want to wait in or whatever, is wrong? And how much of it is normal? So let's not just talk about that. I got 3 verses, and I want to read them all because I'm definitely wanting to guilt you all. I'll make you feel horrible about yourselves. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. We'll just write these down just so we can look at it. Verse 5. I brought this up because of this guy. I'm totally judging him, by the way. Anyway, I hope he's not here visiting. I guess he'll never come back. Anyway. Yeah, I got to be careful on that. 1 Corinthians 13:5 talks about love. So for all of you who are married, here's this one little verse. It says, love is not irritable. Y'all are laughing. Like, well, that's a stupid verse. Who does that? Not irritable. Versus what? Is this normal or is this normal? Do most people get irritable real fast? Yeah. Maybe they're always irritable. I don't know. Let's go back to some Ten Commandments. Exodus 20, verse 7 and 17. I just want us to think about what's normal. It's not the healthy stuff, is it? In Exodus 20, verse 7, we're told this. Don't use the Lord your God's name as if it were insignificant. We use that word in vain. Most of us don't really know what that means. What does this mean? Yeah, that's actually using God's name in vain. What's normal? People JC in this and JC in that and OMG in that and OMG in this? By the way, that's one of the 10 Commandments. Last week we talked about verse 17. In the Common English, I love this. Do not desire your neighbor's house or their wife. Desire. Are our desires healthy for the most part? Or unhealthy? If y'all read my blog, by the way, every parent in this place needs to go online and study the statistics of pornography. Every parent needs to understand that 64% of our kids, basically aged 11 through 24, are watching pornography once or more a week. They cannot do that unless we parents give them the cell phones and the internet access to do it. 64% healthy desires, right. Almost 40% of every download on the internet today is pornography. 40% of every download. If you read my there are more like people watching pornography than all the traffic on Amazon, Twitter, and Netflix combined. So, what's normal? Healthy desires? 64%. That's a majority, right? So that means if you've got a kid between the ages of 12 and 24, they've got more than a 50% chance of having a problem. If your kid doesn't have a problem, half of their friends will have a problem. We must educate our children on this stuff. What stuff? Well, I should take a step back. That means a lot of people, adults in this, are going to have a problem too. All right? What's the first problem? What's the biggest problem? What's the biggest struggle any alcoholic ever has with overcoming alcoholism? What's the biggest struggle any person addicted to pornography or drugs ever has? Yeah. They do not have an awareness of a problem. With any of us, one of the big issues we have in life is we don't have any awareness of our problem. That's why they're called, by the way, blind spots, because you are blind as a bat, and you can have people all around you saying, you know, this is what's wrong. You know, this is what's wrong. This is what's wrong. And what we say to ourselves, you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm me, so I'm right. Even though the whole world around you says, no, you're actually an idiot, and that's stupid. But because you won't listen to what all these people say, I'm not going to say anything else either, because it's a waste of time. And I'm not going to fight with you over this stuff. When sin becomes normal, notice, our awareness of temptation for sin is gone. Right? Temptation is the step before the sin. So if we say the sin is not a problem, tell me, where is temptation in our society? It's non-existent. We're having a problem just defining that 64% of our kids is a problem. We can't even say that's wrong. So what? Whew, this is a big verse, folks. John 10, verse 10. Whew. Y'all tune in, because this is something, honestly, I think even we struggle with. We believe it in principle, we believe it in theory, but when we get out in the world, when we deal with those issues from Monday through Saturday, where temptation strikes, then we're not so sure. And I got two things to offer you here. John 10:10, the thief enters only to steal, kill, and destroy. I would just throw in the word to ruin. The thief enters. The thief enters what? Jesus is talking now. Your heart and your home. The thief enters your marriage. The thief enters your parenting. The thief enters you and your perspective on your job. The thief enters this. To ruin. To destroy. I came so that they could have life. Who are they? You. Us. And life to its fullest. Do we believe that? That there's a thief, that there's a spiritual something going on, that there's more than meets the eye? That the victories or defeats of life happen internally, not circumstantially? So the thief, you want to say sin, you want to say Satan, you want to say evil, I don't care how you define it. What we want to see is the thief is promoting an alternative. Okay? A different way, a different truth from Jesus, who is the way, the truth, and the life. The thief, God in the flesh of Jesus, comes to say those other paths, those other options, those other truths, kill, ruin, destroy. I will lead you to abundance. And we all agree, and that sounds so simple. Jesus, light of the world. Simple, right? Except for this one other little verse. 2 Corinthians 11:14. 2 Corinthians 11:14. This is one we can all memorize today. Matter of fact, I'll just tell it to you. The devil appears as an angel of light. Say it with me. The devil appears as an angel of light. Again, the devil appears as an angel of light. So the devil appears as an angel of light, and Jesus is light of the world. Light looking like light. When were you ever tempted to do something that was obviously ugly? It's not temptation if you're not tempted to do it. But boo. Right? Temptation by nature is tempting. And if it's tempting, there's something about it that you like. Let's let the crickets chirp. Think about this. The devil appears as an angel of light, and Jesus is light of the world. Can you tell the difference between the two in your own life tomorrow? I suggest to you it's way harder than you think. This is not basic Christianity. Basic Christianity is, let's go to church, let's have a devotional, let's tithe, let's serve the poor. Yeah, that's the easy stuff. Again, hard stuff. Can you discern the difference tomorrow from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed when you are tempted to sin or not? Whew. It's hard, people. Literally, after I got in that somewhat, for me, a fight with that guy, I took a step. I'm like, was I wrong? Was I wrong to hand her the paper before I went to the bathroom? Why didn't I just go to the bathroom first and then hand her the paper? And I'm just like, but that's part of what we have to do. We have to spend some time and this is when you really know, is when you're experiencing conflict, when you're experiencing problems, when you're experiencing pain and suffering or the people around you. That's when you need to take a step back, me too, and say, did I handle that the right way? Did I say the right thing? Was I a faithful disciple of Jesus in that moment? When are you going to have those self-reflective moments if you don't have a daily devotional? When are you going to take the time to look back over your day and to think through and to confess, God, I'm sorry I could have handled that better. I did not honor you the way I could have. And the way I spoke to my spouse, and the way I took my job for granted, and the way I punched the guy in the throat at the doctor's office. Self-reflective moments where we recognize temptation, we recognize, here we go, where we've fallen to it. And then we take a step back and we say, God, I really am sorry. I want to do better. Help me do better. And Jesus is like, I'm so glad you asked. I will help you. Not microwave. Because honestly, when you look underneath the temptation, what you find is that's where you're flawed. And that's where you're going to have to grow up and get some self-control and do better and live better and follow Jesus in that area of your life where honestly, you've probably self-justified it. You've probably made up the excuses. You've given your reasons for why you're this way. And for many of us, we've just given up. Lent. That's why I love Lent. It's a great time. If you follow the patterns of the church and you make the tradition meaningful, it's a great time to take a step back and reflect on who you are, how far you've come with Christ, and how far you still have to go. It is a great time. Why do we fast? Because when you do get hungry, and you will, even with all the fruit and raw broccoli you want, after 3 or 4 days, you will be starving, even though you're not starving. When you're hungry, we remember one of the Beatitudes that Jesus says, those of you who hunger and thirst for righteousness, those are the ones of you who will be blessed because you will be made full. Do you hunger and thirst for righteousness as much as you do for the food on your table? I don't know. Often we don't. What's it like to actually go without food a couple days? Do any of us even know that in this country? In third world countries, there are lots of places they're struggling just to eat. And for us, it's like we're struggling to eat too much. Where do you struggle? Do you have an awareness of where you struggle? In Matthew 5:29, last piece, it's a pretty harsh teaching of Jesus, where he says, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out, throw it away. It's better for you to go around living with one eyeball than to go to hell. Ah, it's a metaphor. Aren't you glad? We'd all be just blind. You just watch TV one day, the struggles we have with lust, we say it's not a problem. All men would be just total blind. You talk about blind. Metaphor for what? Go to the rich young ruler. Jesus meets this guy he's got wealth and he's got power, he's got prestige, he's got all this stuff. And he comes to Jesus like, look at me, is there anything wrong with me? And Jesus is like, oh, yes, there is. And to fix it, we're going to have to gouge out your eye and throw it away. And then you're going to need to come follow me. As if you can't see on your own, but you can only see with me. What's the eyeball for the rich guy? His money. Total idolatry. He trusted in his money to provide for him more than God. And I'm pretty sure Jesus is like, that money ain't going to help you forever, is it? What do you need to gouge out and throw away? When I first accepted Christ when I was 19, it was a big deal for me. I had finally figured a few things out. I was a total mess. But one of the things I did, I went through my apartment. I got and that time we had CDs because they were the big thing. Y'all know me, like, I don't even know what a CD is, right? I actually had cassette tapes at the time. Y'all know what that is? No, most of you are like, I have no idea. But anyway, I went through all of my music, all of my books, even things on the shelf. Anything that didn't lift up and help me in my walk with Christ, I threw it away. And I'd been collecting CDs for a while, and some people be like, how could you not at least sell them? Because it wasn't about that. It was about me needing to gouge out the things in my life that were not helping me walk with Christ. Get rid of the music, get rid of the TV stuff, get rid of the whatever, books, all of it. Anything that didn't have to do with my life with Christ, I literally threw it all away. Man, I felt so much better. What do you need to gouge out and throw away? What I want to really push you to do is to spend the next 2 days, because remember, Lent starts Wednesday morning. So you got today, you got Monday and Tuesday. I want you to think carefully. Fat Tuesday, go have the big blowout party. Don't do anything sinful. Which, by the way, Mardi Gras, I don't think has anything to do with this anymore, in case you're wondering. But spend the next 2.5 days thinking about, am I even aware of what I need to gouge out and chunk? Am I aware of the things that I have allowed into my own life or into the lives of my children that are giving access to stuff they should never be exposed to? But because we live in this permissive society that says, oh, they're kids, what do you expect? Well, you're an adult too. What do you expect? Jesus expects a whole lot more of all of us than we expect of each other. Have y'all noticed that? Where do you need to have awareness of temptation and awareness of sin? Or where do you need to have the humility to take a step back and maybe on Wednesday, for you say, at least for 40 days, no more. No more. In case you're wondering what I've decided I'm going to do, I'm not going to do anything on the internet for 40 days except work stuff. I'll get on our Fellowship One church program. I'm going to check emails, but I'm not looking on any news. I'm not surfing the internet. I'm not spending any time at all doing anything online unless I have to. We'll see how that goes. But the internet for me, honestly, it's drumming up a lot of negative feelings. I don't make light of the coronavirus. That's a nasty thing. But me reading about it on the internet and getting anxious about some of that stuff, is that helpful? Maybe it is for you. I don't know. Some of you need to turn off the TV. You need to say, I'm not watching TV at all because you've been watching some. If Jesus watched what you watched beside you, you'd be so embarrassed. Maybe you need to cancel Netflix for 40 days. Some of you need to I don't know, you know. Some of you need to not drink alcohol at all because you can't handle it. You get drunk, you can't control yourself. Some of you need to not speak for 40 days because all that comes out of your mouth is negative and hateful. My mom said what she's going to give up for 40 days is being around my dad. So she's like, all he does is, we literally talked about it this morning, but I don't know, but what I do know is that's kind of what fasting is about. That's what this idea of giving up something for Lent is about. It's not just, don't just give up meat, that's dumb. Give up something that tempts you to sin. Give up something that you already know is a problem and you're struggling to overcome it. And you overcome that thing for 40 days and you tell me you aren't going to feel better when we go around to Easter. There's so much more. We will hit some of it Wednesday night. But other than that, if you have questions, email me, call me, we can gather. We're going to start a totally new series next week. But again, y'all let me know if you have questions. I'm happy to help, happy to give you resources. I really do hope you'll join me and so many of us to actually practice a holy Lent starting Wednesday. If you can, we will see you Wednesday night at 6. Let's pray. Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for your blessings and your love and your continual forgiveness and presence with us, even when we're so crazy sometimes. Help us have the humility and the awareness to listen to your Holy Spirit when you are telling us to stop certain things and to gouge out that thing and throw it away and to realize nothing matters more than walking right with you. I do pray for everyone here, for those online, that they would know your peace, which surpasses all comprehension. That we all would experience your love and your joy, your goodness, your kindness, your fruits of the Spirit in this upcoming week. That we will be connected to you daily, bearing your fruit. May you know that height and depth and width and breadth of God's love for you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you all so much for coming today. Before you leave, please shake somebody's hand around you. Say, God bless you, glad you're here, and y'all have a wonderful week.